Hello gamers, this is Iron Bill back again with another video, and I'm going to do one that I don't typically do, and I'm going to discuss the TWAB this week and some of the changes that are upcoming in Destiny. And I'm going to lead off by saying that this video that you're going to see is going to be featuring a weapon that I've kept in my vault for a very long time. It's a Transfiguration, which is a 150 Scout rifle, and it comes with quality. Mine does. I've already got one of these that Bungie says is coming in the future with non-raid weapons, and that is they're going to allow non-raid weapons or legendaries to have raid combinations. And what that's being taken to mean is that you're going to see combinations that are actually very powerful. My Transfiguration has this. I have Rampage Kill Clip. That's 2 damage dealing perks in the same gun. Tactical mag or drop mag, full bore, hammer forged rifling, or polygonal rifling, and it has a reload masterwork. I gotta tell you, honestly, if I could roll this gun, I would probably roll it about the same way. It is very, very good, and I've been waiting because I knew that I had a unicorn. I had something that was very, very special there. I've held on to it for a very long time, and I think this one came. I don't remember which raid it came from. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a very hard to get, if you can get one at all, weapon right now, especially in that loadout. So I'm going to have the gameplay playing in the background featuring this gun, and you can watch for yourself to see how well it handles regular PvE anyway. But I'm going to discuss some other things too, and I've made some notes so that I would not ramble too much. I want to keep this to around a 10-minute video, no more, if I can do that. And I'm going to touch on some hot topics here, and that is, of course, the big thing. One of the big things that came out in the TWAB was the Divinity nerf. Now, I want to talk about nerfs as a whole. You know, generally I've been against them, and in the past I was completely against them because I figured, like in Destiny 1, I worked hard to get these weapons. They're top shelf stuff. If I want to use this forever, that's my choice. If I want to go find something else, that's my choice. And I looked at it completely from a PvE perspective because that's what I am. I'm a PvE player. And over time, I mean, I was so mad. I want to say this too. When Taken King came out, and they unilaterally, Bungie went back and did a post nerf on all previous weapons up to that point in time, and really brought the power level of all weapons and everything down. I thought they had really diminished the game, and part of me still believes that. It may be that memory is much sweeter than the reality, but in Destiny 1, up until Taken King, to me, in a lot of ways, that was the golden time, up until that point. Now, there were good times that came after that, but I never had the same sense of power and awe that I had at that point in time. It was never going to be recaptured. I still have fun with the game. I still play it. It's not the same game, though. That being said, my view over time on nerfs came to the point where I realized that Bungie had to do it on some levels. The adjustments have to be made to weapons. And if you want to go back to a year 1 example, when they brought Vex Mythoclast out, oh my gosh, when that hit Crucible, you know, you'd hear that boop, 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 and you know you just had to run the other way. You had to run the other way. You could not fight it unless you had one. It was that bad, and it obviously screamed for a nerf. It was way, way, way too strong. Not only there, but in PvE. And I know the arguments I'm about to make are going to run counter to that a little bit, but you know, the core idea is that sometimes something can be so strong that it trivializes the game, and it no longer is a game. It is just a shooting gallery. And you know, in those instances, when weapons have become so strong, or combinations become so strong that you have completely trivialized the game, I understand adjustments. Okay, so, and that's particularly true when it comes to PvP, because if you force a situation where there's only one actual loadout that you can do in PvP, because of what other players experience if you don't, then I understand nerfs being necessary. The tragedy is that in the sandbox, you have to always remember that it's a linked sandbox, so whatever changes happen in PvP directly impact PvE. Now, I know they like to say that it doesn't, and they usually double talk and say, no, it won't be so bad because we're going to adjust it this way. It's always bad. It is always bad, you know, when they have to do the nerf. But at least I've come to the place where I realize that has to happen. And I'll be honest, too, I've also come to the place where I realize that, you know, even if they sunset a gun and then sell it back to you down the road. It's still something new to work with, and I just kind of had to make a mental adjustment of just pretend you just don't know this gun at all. Just pretend that you've never had it, and just play the game and experience it like they intend for you to experience it, and just let the chips fall where they fall. And so, for that, in that respect, I'm okay with it. Now, the question about Divinity specifically is it so strong that it trivializes the game? Well, that's a yes and a no. It's true that a 30% debuff is a big deal, and the aim accuracy is a big deal. Okay, it's true. You know, on certain bosses that move around, dart around. You think about, I can't think of her name in the encounter and the. I'm trying to think of the name of the raid. I can't. Anyway, there are some raid bosses that encounters where you have a fast-moving target, and your choice of weapon is going to depend upon how well you can aim that gun, or how you can max DPS, or what have you. In some instances, like if you're using Izanagi's Burden, it can be a killer DPS weapon, but you have to hit the shot. That's the thing. And Bungie's arguing that Divinity, not only does it take that away, but it also gives you a 30% buff, and so they had to choose one or the other to take off, and they decided to leave the accuracy alone, but cut the buff in half to 30 or to 15%. And then they said the line that always made me mad, and this really just kind of, brought back some of those bad memories from D1. They said, by doing this, they will raise up other guns. No. They didn't raise up anything. When you nerf, you don't raise up anything. You diminish something so others are more appealing by comparison, and it's a massive difference. I don't think that's a small thing to overlook or even act like isn't real. Okay, but in a food equivalent, that's like saying you took my chocolate sundae that I love so much and you poured salt all over it, so I'll go ahead and eat the chocolate cake. Okay, the cake is good, and I could have chosen the half cake, but I wanted the sundae. And making my sundae taste worse, so I'll eat the chocolate cake, does not make the chocolate cake taste better. This is Bungie's approach, and I find that intellectually insulting when they phrase it that way. Just say, look, we want you to use other stuff, so we're going to take off a little bit about what makes this so great, and we want you to try some different loadouts as instead. Just say it. That's really the truth. Telling people that you're making everything better by making something worse, that's just a flat lie. I don't appreciate that. And that's about as far as my anger goes on that one.
Can you hear me now? I'm back.
Now, why did this all happen all of a sudden? You would say, well, you just told us all of that. Well, not exactly. You see, the thing is, the argument by people, in particular streamers, has been that the whole raid situation has been trivialized by this weapon. But that's not really true. First of all, only one group of people, a small percentage of the gamer population, is going to go for world's first. And once it's done, you have all kinds of seasons after that. Okay, if you make a choice to go for the world first, use whatever weapons, optimize that ability. It won't matter if Divinity is nerfed, there will be another meta. That's the thing. There is always a meta. There's always a way to do things that is better than everything else. That's really the very definition of what meta is. So you can't ever do away with meta. It is always going to be there. The other thing is, it's PvE. And if you look at the game as a whole, if a group of gamers wanted to get together, say my friends and I decide to do a raid, and we want to use Divinity, the only 6 people that are being impacted by that are the people who make the choice to go into that raid. That's it. And it's not like PvP where, opposing players have to suffer from my decision. That's not the way it works. In PvE, only the people who are in that event are going to suffer anything. And so the argument by people, and in this case it is streamers, who are saying, hey, that probably ought to be nerfed. Actually, one streamer in particular, but more on that in a bit. I'm sorry. That shouldn't even be an argument. I say to these people, as I always do, if you think your raid is not challenging enough, then don't use the meta weapons. Have a blue-only world's first contest. I'm serious. Have a bunch of people to get together. Bungie could set this up and say, from here on, We're going to have a world's first for using regular weapons. We're going to have a world's first using only blues. I'm sure it can be pulled off. And then if somebody wants to go in raid day and do all blues and show what they've got and have a special emblem for that, I think that's cool. That's a great idea. And that hurts nobody. But if you take the approach that others are taking, and that is, we want this nerf for everybody because we feel like it's too easy, then you're missing the point. And that is, it isn't all about you. It's just not, you know. You have to look at the gaming community as a whole. And on top of that, and somebody could even argue that the elite gamers are being hurt because this thing exists. Well, you know what? That's what they have master raids for. That's why they have that. You know, because you want the challenge. Now, some people, you know, are arrogant enough to say, I don't want to have to throttle myself. I want others to throttle me. Well, I've been an adult for a very long time, and I like to take care of myself, and I like to make my own choices. So, soapbox off on that. Now, before this closes up, I want to touch something else, and that is the bans that have been happening, and how that relates to this nerf, in my opinion. The whole discussion about Divinity started when a streamer, whom I will not name, started suggesting, basically stated as if it was fact, that Divinity needed a nerf, and here's what he would do. And Bungie pretty much went along that line. Now, Bungie claimed that that was just a coincidence, and that they'd been looking at Divinity for a long time, and this is what they decided to do. But I've worked with the public my entire career, and I got to tell you, the optics of this are bad. And when you work with the public, perception is reality. And I don't think the gaming community is going to swallow that this streamer had no influence on this happening. You see, maybe the streamer didn't get exactly what he wanted, or maybe he didn't make it happen, but he got a conversation going that Bungie could not ignore. And that's influence. And that is the influence that streamers do have. But again, you know, I wondered, you know, why would Bungie tackle this now? Because that looks bad. I mean, that looks bad no matter how you slice it. I mean, it does appear that the streamer got it done. And that's how people are going to remember it, I'm sorry to say. And I'm not so sure I don't believe that too. Well, the other thing happened, and that was the nerfs, the anti-cheat that went into effect, and or not nerfs, but bans that happened here recently in the game. And it has to do with network limiting and manipulating code so that you're harder to kill, or in PvE, actually, you can cause damage, excessive damage to enemies after you attack them without any risk. Okay, that obviously is game breaking, and they need to do something about it. But they messed up their code and the parameters for doing so, and you can read the 12 to get more details. They really didn't go deep into it. And they wound up netting some people they shouldn't have, 60 in total. But one of them happened to be a very high-profile guy who ran a private site that was used by a large portion of the community. And this guy got so mad about being banned, in his view, unjustly, that he deleted the game and said, you know, I'm done on that site. It's not going to happen anymore. And once again, that's a bad look for Bungie, because they really do rely on third-party people to do these types of things. Chances are, if you play the game, you use Destiny Item Manager, or some method of manipulating your inventory. Most people who play PvP look at like GG or Destiny Tracker, or those aren't put up by Bungie. They're approved by Bungie, but those are third-party people who do that. They cheesed one of these guys off, and that's a bad look. So they came into the TWAB, apologized for banning people unjustly, but did not name that person specifically, right after announcing the nerf to Divinity. And again, timing. I think both of these issues are third rail issues for this gaming community. I mean, when you nerf anything, people get really, really mad. When you ban people, some people get really, really mad. And I think in this particular case, the timing of it suggests to me that they wanted the narrative to be on the Divinity nerf, which was much easier to handle, because that's something that it has a better foundation in validity than banning a guy unjustly who was such a valued member of the community. I really do think that, and that's me with the tinfoil hat on, I think that the timing of that would suggest that they would rather us talk about Divinity than about the people who got banned. And so you can take that for what it's worth. That said, that's really all I wanted to discuss today, and just food for thought, you know. And I'm not happy about Divinity getting nerfed because in the final analysis, and I'll sum it up this way: we always have the choice to use what weapons we want, and if we want to use the very best stuff, and that's fine, we should do it, you know. Or if you want to join a raid team that says use XYZ, either join that raid team or don't. Okay, it's really that simple. You know, a quality team can do it even if you're short of weapons or setups or whatever. Okay, in most cases, raids are easy enough that you can do that. But when you start taking things away from the entire population because a few people do not feel like they're challenged, or worse, resent the fact that anybody can get something that they want. And let's not forget that there are people who are very exclusionary in their thinking. They feel special when they have something that others can't get. Okay? And that's unfortunately kind of a thing. Usually more in PvP, but yeah, you know, you got raiders that feel that way too. It's just a sad day. Yeah, it diminishes the game in my opinion. Divinity wasn't hurting anyone. If you chose not to use it and challenge yourself, you could. If you chose to use it and take an easier path, you could. I mean, that's just the bottom line of it. And I will never agree with nerfs, this one in particular, that are based on the idea by a few elite people that the game's just not hard enough for them and they have no power to make it harder for themselves, so they must be forced to do something else. I'm sorry, that's just childlike mentality. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up, and thank you for watching. This is Iron Bill, signing off.